Hello all, and welcome to another devlog about my art tool, Kaleidomancer. As I was preparing to write the script for this video, I looked at the previous devlog about this art tool. I hadn't quite realized how much progress had been made since then and was rather taken aback by it. To share some of that sensation, I am currently showing a screenshot of the program as it was back then. Now let's switch to a running instance of it in its current state. Like so. The visual progress here is very satisfying for me to behold. I hope you enjoy it too. Now, just like last time, I will go over the features of the program, but I will limit myself to the ones that are new. Then I will list what is missing before wrapping up the video. A little word on polish. For almost anything I mention here, there is some need for polish, but I won't be getting into the tiniest details. That said, polish also takes time, and that tends to happen whenever I feel in the mood, or when a lack of polish becomes so annoying to me that I can't stand it anymore. Then on to the UI. A lot of the time since the last video has been spent making the graphics for the UI. I really wanted it to look fantastic, like a fantasy illustration, reminiscent of the RPG UIs of yore. And I think I succeeded for the most part. You will note that the background is still the same blocky travesty as then, a final vestige of the prototype design. I will of course replace it, but I still do not have all the tools in place to make such a grand painting as that in a convenient way. It might very well be one of the last things I make for this program, at least in the foreseeable future. All of the buttons that were present in the last devlog have now been incorporated into this elaborate UI, and I have added several more. You can perceive them when I mouse over like this. They turn a somewhat darker hue, and their functionality is displayed with text. There are still several functions that need a representation on the UI, but I have focused on tackling the most fundamental or difficult features first, so as to make the rest of the implementation more pleasant by comparison. I really like the look of the clean UI, so I don't display button text unless necessary. But there is a key to switch on persistent button text if you feel like you need it, like so. If you're wondering about these fountains of sort, they show the current selected color, which is now manipulated by mousing over and using the mouse wheel on these orbs, one for each of the three RGB color components. I really like this feature, and I always enjoy watching the color change. Though some colors look less appealing than others when spewing forth from the mouth of any kind of creature, really. Let's turn our attention to the snippets, or copy buffers, as I like to call them. If you click these tentacles up here, you enter the so-called demarcation mode. This allows you to select a section of your active layer, like so, and pressing the C key gives you a cutout, a copied buffer or snippet. You can also see that one section of this shell has been colored in. If I mouse over that, I see a representation of the snippet in question in the center of the screen. I can create more than one, like so. And you can see here that I can mouse over them and see representations of both in the center. If I click this one and press the appropriate button, I can now paste this as I see fit. And then I can switch to the other one and do the same. This allows me to have multiple copied sections of my image available or stored at the same time. I believe there's a total of 14 sections to this shell, and it takes a while to fill them all, of course, but once you do, If you make another copy, you will essentially overwrite, or replace is a better term for it, this first one, and then they will subsequently replace all of the previous ones in order. So I think that would be quite practical. Let's turn our attention to layers. The layer functionality is not fully implemented yet, but it is very close. Much like snippets, layers are represented by filled-in sections of shell, but in the lower left corner here. Of course, every image has at least one layer, so it already has one filled-in section. When I mouse over, you see a text in the middle of the screen, and that is the name of the layer. The first layer always gets the name of the project by default. I can create a new layer in one of these menus, which, by the way, let's just turn our attention a little bit to these menus. It's supposed to be a splash of water with clamshells on top. And it is perhaps the weirdest part of the UI, since it gets stretched out of proportion to accommodate the form or the format of the fold-out menu in question. Such as when I click the layer menu here, another menu that has a different proportion is displayed. But oh well. Here I can type in a name for my new layer and create it. It is created transparent by default. So when I mouse over here, I see the name of it, and I see that one layer alone. Selecting that, I can do some pasting. For example, I can also put in one of our first snippets, or two, maybe three, like an E. And now I can mouse over to see that layer specifically, and the first one. I will put in some more options for you to be able to see a transparent version, like if I'm focusing on the first layer. And now I cannot see the second one. That's so that my view is not obscured. I have code in place to make it possible to see a transparent or partially transparent version of any overlying layers, all of them, in fact, if you have several. I discovered that that is very distracting, so I shall turn it into an option, I think. By the way, by default, when it looks like the currently selected color is purple, but there's a bug with the flood fill that selects black by default. So we can alter this a little bit here, like so, and now it should be proper purple. Altering it updates it. I should really fix that. Anyway, that is the, shall we say, primary layer functionality. You cannot delete layers yet, but I suppose that will become an available function in the future. Here, in the bottom center, we have the beginnings of the palette functionality. Currently, it's just the ability to select any one of these arbitrarily defined colors with a simple click. Not terribly useful yet, but my next priority will be to implement the possibility to create and save custom palettes of different sizes. The sizes will probably include 8, 16, 32 and 64 colors. I said in my previous video that 128 and 256 color palettes would also be possible, but I am not sure that it will be relevant to my work, so I have relegated that to a bonus feature. Bonus features are things that I might add if and when I have the time and am in the mood. Along with these custom palettes will come the ability to map an existing image to a particular palette as well. There are some features that I mentioned in the last video about this tool that I haven't mentioned here. I might have forgotten one or two, but for the most part it is because I have conclusively decided that they will be bonus features and therefore no longer included in the current plan. Certainly, there is still some work to be done on this program, but it seems like very little compared to what I have already finished. This makes me very glad, because I can't wait to get back to working on the actual game again. Thus, I predict that the next time I talk about this tool, it will be to announce that it is done. That will probably take a month or two due to schoolwork, which is quite busy right now. But in the meantime, I do plan on releasing devlogs about the game design, as I have promised previously. The first one of these will most likely deal with my current ideas for the overarching structure of gameplay. With that, I wish you all a lovely day in life, and goodbye.